hearing Cammie say, I only want to have sex twice a week for now, was hard for me.
Thank you.
Cool.
I was getting Rainier's clothes on and he spontaneously asked, can I go pee in my little toilet? So I said, sure. And he did. He's upstairs right now, but he asked for a treat. I said, because he's used to, last time I was trying to get him to learn how to use the potty, I gave him treats, so he remembered. So I said, yeah, you can have an M&M, sure.
Okay. Whew.
It's nice out here.
It is. So you read about this talk in the title. Man, that's gonna drive me crazy. Clean. A few people recently have said in the comments that that sounds like we're obsessed with sex. Specifically me. To which I would say, and? So you can leave if you're just gonna write that in the comments, or if you're George Frole, you can exit now because this is gonna be boring to you. But for the rest of you that are also obsessed with sex, welcome.
Or at least interested in it. Welcome.
Seriously, oh man, that sunshine feels so
Feels nice. I'm defined from the 3 months of winter right now. All right, better?
Okay, how's that lighting doing for you guys? Better? Better. Seriously though, we talk about sex because it's a really important topic to me. It's really important in our relationship. We sense that it's really important in other people's relationships, and we don't hear about it talked about in this way online, hardly at all, in a way that's helpful to us. We hear a lot of joking about it, a lot of sensationalizing it, and using it for shock value, and then a lot of like snickering or saying nothing at all.
A lot of suppression. What's the difference between suppression and repression? Whatever. A lot of that.
In the past, a lot of our vlogs were about scheduling sex because that was a really important practice for us. And not just scheduling sex, but scheduling almost anything in our life that is of value to us that's important and difficult. So we found it's valuable to do that.
And not because we need to be more disciplined. I think that was more me or us in the past, but now I know it's not gonna happen unless I schedule it. So if it's important to me, I put it on the calendar.
You're talking about non-sex.
I'm talking about everything that's important to you. It could be sex.
Because sex has been happening even though we haven't been scheduling it. That's a little different.
Yeah, because I think there are some things in your life that are important enough that you don't need a schedule for, or you don't need to put on the calendar. It just like happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
like
sex
eating.
would happen.
Eating happens.
For us, if we didn't schedule it.
And it has, yeah.
But I think what scheduling it has helped with us is we have different, I don't want to say expectations at this point, but different desire levels. Discussing it takes up a lot of time and energy. Deciding, oh, is today the day, or do you want to do it later, or should we do it, wait 2 days? I mean, that takes up time and energy. And what scheduling does is it kind of says, okay, let's agree on something that's not necessarily perfect for me or you, but just that is the best we can do with
Both
different people.
Yeah.
Let's agree on that. And then we'll agree to live that out for a certain amount of time so that we don't have to spend our energy, all this energy, trying to figure out when. So if your sex life is just like perfect already, and I don't mean that sardonically, but Like if you guys are on the same page with your partners.
There's not like a lot of conflict in that
tension,
area.
or if everyone's needs are being met and people are just hunky-dory, I would say like keep on keeping on. Like you probably don't need a schedule. But if you find that both people are not happy and it takes energy,
even if just one of you aren't.
Yeah, that's true. Then having a discussion about a schedule might help. It helps
can be helpful.
us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not a fun conversation, because what happens in our conversation is I would say, I would probably want sex, I don't think 5 days a week anymore. I think I'm getting old.
You're reaching 40.
Yeah. So I'm not as young as I used to be. But I would say 4 days a week is pretty ideal for me.
And for me, it's 1 to 2. I haven't quite figured, because our dynamic is, I don't know how you'd say it, but like me more merging with his preference. I don't actually fully know what mine is. So I would say somewhere between 1 to 2 times a week.
So seriously, who wants to get together and say, I want it 4 times a week, I want it 1 or 2 times a week? Great, let's fight, or let's have our feelings hurt. Like, it's not a fun conversation in a way.
At least for us.
But that's the reality of the situation. And we've found that we could ignore that reality and pretend like it doesn't exist. But that tension carries on into our everyday life. Or we could proactively address it and say, hey, I want it a lot, you want it a little, like, what are we gonna do about this that we can both at least agree to? And it doesn't have to be for the rest of our lives, but at least for the next month or week, or let's give something a try. I know, like, for a lot of years, we had the agreement that we were gonna try and have sex 3 times a week. And it was what? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or something like that.
Something, I don't remember.
Just spaced out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a rule. Like, I mean, I guess that's one way to look at a schedule, is like, oh crap, now we have to, it's Tuesday and neither of us feel like it, but we have to. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was just kind of like a default, saying, hey, unless I have a really good reason that I want to present, or unless you have a really good reason, it's just like we have the same thing for running. And I know people think like sex is this whole more special, different thing than running, but in a way it's actually totally not. Like running, we do it because we like it, but we don't always feel like it. It makes us feel good and is better for our long-term goals. But we don't want to just run like only when we're like in the mood.
Well, there's something to say about spontaneity and sex, but it's not the only way to have sex.
Well put. So we've been going a ways without scheduling, and I've been happy with it, but Cammie tells me yesterday that she's not happy with that. And not only that, she tells me she wants to drop down the number of times a week down to 2.
I think another way to put that is I didn't feel like it was meeting my needs anymore. My personality normally just merges with other people's opinions and desires, especially if they have a stronger personality. And yes, if you're new to this channel, that's Ben. My growth process has looked like having to, I've read some things about my personality's natural bent, my default, and my growth has been trying to come out of, I'm still gonna merge in a lot of ways, and that's not a bad thing. But there comes a time when I need to figure out, well, what is it that I want? What are, is my desires, am I getting erased here? And again, I don't think it's Ben's fault. It's just, this is my own process and growth.
No matter how much you say that, there's gonna be people that turn you into a victim and turn me into some sort of oppressor or bad guy or villain.
Which is, they can do that.
Well,
but I'm not a victim and you're not an oppressor.
I just want to point out, when you actually do that, if you're still watching this, it's actually one of the least empowering things you can do for Cammie or someone in her personality type or that's playing her role. And in this conversation, one of the reasons why we have it is I know a lot of couples struggle with this kind of thing. And it's not always the guy and the girl that have these roles. A lot of times it's the woman. I mean, we hear from comments, a lot of times it's the woman that is more the
stronger personality,
or she wants sex more or whatever. So this isn't a discussion about male and female
It's
or
not
Ben and
gender
Cammy.
binary. Yeah,
So I hope people don't write off and judge that too quick, because it really does a disservice to those people that are stronger personalities or do want sex more or less. And I think in the past, we've made the mistake, different mistakes, of saying whoever wants sex the most, the other person should be required to give them sex, because that's what a healthy marriage looks like. And I don't believe that. And I feel like anything that puts that type of pressure on an individual to fake it or to perform, and they could call it different terms, like in the religious world, they call it service and love. I think that's kind of bullshit now.
Yeah. I believe a passive personality or in a more aggressive personality, each of those is not a bad or a good thing. It just is. And I think a lot of people tend to either make the passive personality as less than, or the aggressive personality as less than, or the in-between personality as less than. I don't see it that way. I see it as just people with different personalities. Some people are more mature in their personality, others are not. And again, that's even okay to me. That's not a bad thing.
This next thing I'm going to say, I know is going to get a shitstorm because it just always does. But hearing Cammy say, I only want to have sex twice a week for now, was hard for me.
Wow, Ben's a human. It was hard for him.
Yeah, there's...
No, I'm saying I want to highlight that he's human and he's allowed to have those feelings.
Expectations and desires.
As am I.
Now, what I think would be overstepping bounds is if I started to guilt trip or manipulate or physically force or emotionally coerce Cammy into give me what I want. But for me, or any person out there, male or female, to have expectations and hopes and to have those not met, to me, that's like the human thing. That's like all of life, basically.
Yep.
So for me to just be honest with myself and with Cammy and to say, man, that's hard. I don't know how to deal with that. Was difficult, but I also think it's better in the long run, and I'm really proud of you for taking steps that feel courageous to me and unknown. And it's disruptive. It'd just be easier. What's been going on has been working. And we're able to get shit done. We're writing books and hiking fucking trails, and we're pretty happy. But yesterday you said that there's some things that you're not content with.
Yeah. And I think it would be helpful for you guys to know a little bit of this backstory. I've been on a journey really untangling my identity from everything. I think it really started with my family rejecting me, my extended family feeling that rejection, and then friends rejecting me, feeling that rejection. And I feel like the last tier is actually unentangling myself from identifying in our relationship, and to a point where I'm just clinging to it so vastly that it becomes, if Ben is upset with me, it becomes a part of who I am. And I'm still on that journey, but I actually think it's that has enabled me to be courageous and be able to say, what do I want? And then to be able to voice it, what do I need? And be able to voice it to Ben.
Which is scary for her to say, I want to be emotionally disentangled from you.
Yeah.
It's really nice in some ways to have someone need you. I mean, it feels nice.
And we're so used to a dynamic in our relationship. Everyone has a certain dynamic in their relationship that they're comfortable with. And that, again, isn't a bad thing either. But in looking for growth for myself, that means shaking up that dynamic a bit. And it was scary for me to say, this is what I want or this is what I need, because I'm still unentangling myself, and I'm still so used to this certain dynamic that, Ben, even him sharing those feelings, I absolutely think he had every right to share it. But it's still hard to hear because I want to go in there and be like, oh, no, it's okay. I'll do whatever you need to make you not feel that way because it makes me feel this way. It's really complicated and it's difficult.
The other thing I want to point out is, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that say this does not stem from physical unsatisfaction.
No.
So almost every time we have sex, you have multiple orgasms. So you're like getting your needs met in that way. It's not because people are going to be like, oh, well, have you tried this? This is like more of an emotionally driven thing for you, which I think is tied to physical. Because even though she's content in the sexual experiences, I'm initiating them. So she doesn't get the energy that comes from craving something and wanting it, because she doesn't crave and want it
as much as you
often.
do. And we've been defaulting more to your desire in that area.
And frequency, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess a final note that seems a bit weird to talk about, but I think it directly relates, is we are both okay with masturbation, which is not something we were okay with at one point in our marriage for religious reasons. We saw it as our sexuality, we have a monopoly on each other's sexuality completely, like not just physically, but emotionally and mentally, and you know, even like touching your own body, which now that I look back on that belief, it seems a little weird, but that's just how we were taught, and it was convenient, and it worked for us probably for a little bit.
Yeah.
So physically, you've never had a desire for masturbation. Is that safe to say?
Physically, I think it's all tied in how I was raised, to what I believed about my sexuality. But I guess it's all tied in, physical and emotional. Yeah.
And I'm fine with it, but it's really not the same to me. I mean, it does function as a physical release, but it doesn't have the emotional bonding, which is what I appreciate more about sex. But that's an option. It's just not, it doesn't scratch the itch fully. It can just take care of like one variable, which would be physical tension.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's an option, and it's, I guess it's weird to me, I don't know how other marriages deal with that. Like, that's something that we're both just like okay with either of us. Well, I've never had to deal with it with you.
Yeah, right. On paper, we're okay with, for me. A lot of how I react to Ben needing space when he is disappointed has to do a lot with trauma in my childhood, and I think I need even more space right now from him to be able to deal with that and to try to uncover things there.
And while that's a little bit scary for me and difficult, we have found that allowing people to have what they think is health is better for the relationship in the long run. So I fully support Cammie's decision, even though it comes at my direct, like, personal expense in terms of like what I would like to see happen right now. I think in the long run, having you be a whole, healthier person is the best thing that can ever happen for me or our relationship.
And we believe that Ben could walk away from me and say, you know what, that doesn't work for me, and I'm not willing to let you have that space, and basically there is some sacrifice on your part that is, I think, really important to note. And a lot of people just choose that's not worth it for me. And I actually think that there's no judgment there if people choose that.
Yeah, they can't, because sometimes that could take years, and people might say they can't handle it.
Yeah, and I think people have a right to say that, and to say like, this relationship or this marriage isn't working for me anymore.
But you grind my coffee every morning.
So what would you do without me?
And if I mean, I'm kind of in a tough spot where I'll keep you around, babes.
Thanks. I'll stick around too.
Okay, was this helpful for you guys? Do you deal with the similar issues or things at all in your dynamics? If so, let us know in the comments. We'll see you guys tomorrow.